All right, let's talk about something I think we've all felt. It's that super common frustration, right? That gap between feeling totally fired up by some great new idea and then nothing really changing. We're going to break down why just consuming more and more content isn't the fix you think it is. So, does this sound familiar to you? You've just finished some incredible piece of content. Maybe it was a podcast, an interview, and you are just buzzing with energy. You feel like you can take on the world. And yet, when the alarm goes off the next morning, what happens? Nothing. You fall right back into the exact same habits, doing things the same old way. That gap, that disconnect between the inspiration and the action, that's what we're digging into today. You know, there's actually a name for this whole cycle. It's called the inspiration trap. It's that pattern of getting a hit of motivation, feeling great for a little while, and then seeing absolutely zero change in the real world. So let's pull back the curtain and see what's really going on here. This just nails the problem perfectly. We spend hours listening and watching, we get that rush of energy, but our day-to-day actions stay the same. Most of us are literally drowning in great ideas, but we are starving for what the source material calls execution architecture. We don't have an idea problem, folks. We have a structure problem. How do we get out of this trap? Well, it all starts with understanding that not all information is created equal. This next idea is really the key to breaking free. Over on the left, you've got insight. That's all the high-level philosophy, the cool ideas you get from podcasts and interviews. It's interesting for sure, but it's passive. Now look at the right. That's installation. These are the active tools for change. We're talking about concrete things like specific phrases to use, cue cards to read, or actual constraints that force you into a new behavior. Insight-based content, it alters your mood. It gives you that temporary high, that fleeting feeling of motivation. But installation tools, they alter your structure. They fundamentally change the systems you operate in, and that is what creates lasting change in how you behave. That motivational mood, it's like a sugar rush. It's going to fade. But a well-designed structure, a new habit, a new rule you set for yourself, that is built to last. That's where the real change comes from. So if building structure is the goal, not just collecting cool ideas, how in the world do we actually do that? We need a system, right? A way to process all this information that's constantly flying at us. Let's look at a mental model for this. This is the alpha noise filter. And the key thing to get here is that it's not about finding more content or better content. It's about having a process to run on the content you're already consuming. It's a system for taking all that external noise and deliberately, consciously converting it into your own internal, actionable structure. When you start using a filter like this, something really fundamental changes. It's a total identity shift. You go from being a passive consumer who just kind of listens and collects ideas, a digital hoarder really, to being an active architect, someone who operates, who interprets information, and who uses it as raw material to build personal systems. So where do you start? How do you do this? It's actually a super simple, really powerful 3-step process. The next time you listen to a podcast or read something interesting, don't just move on. First, pull out one single core idea, just one. Second, figure out how to turn that idea into a tangible behavior or rule. And third, and this is the most important part, install it that very same day. No excuses. What does architecting your behavior actually look like in practice? We're going to dive into 2 really powerful ways you can start building these structures for yourself right now. First up is a concept called linguistic authority. It says that the words you choose to use aren't just for communicating with others, they are literally programming your own behavior, your own posture. Your language isn't just style, it's structure. And this chart just lays it out so clearly. Look at the left, you've got this weak, permission-seeking language like, I think, or hopefully. It just leaks authority. But then look at the right, that's structural language. It's decisive. This is the direction. We will. Language like this doesn't just describe reality, it actively creates it. Now, the second big principle for architecting your behavior is this one, and it's a real mind bender for a lot of us. We always think change is about gritting our teeth, about having more willpower. But the sources argue that actually your environment and your context are way more powerful. Real, sustainable change comes from designing your context, not from just trying harder. So what does designing your context actually look like? We're not talking about anything complicated here. It could be as simple as sticking a Post-it note with a new phrase on your monitor, or setting a hard rule for yourself, like no soft phrases for 7 days. These are what you'd call environmental installs. small, deliberate tweaks to your world that automatically guide your behavior. As you start doing this, as you start architecting your behavior and building these little structures into your life, something much bigger starts to shift. You start moving beyond just being a little more effective. You shift into a totally different mindset, one of true ownership. But a lot of us, even if we're technically entrepreneurs, operate with an employee mindset. We just inherit scripts from others, we seek permission, we operate from a place of fear. The goal is to shift to an owner mindset, where you own the narrative, you own the structure, and you own the authority. You're not just playing a role in the game, you're designing the game itself. Freedom all by itself can actually lead to chaos and just drifting along. But when you apply structure to that freedom, that's when you convert it into real power. The power to direct your actions, to control your outcomes, and to actually build the life you want. We all consume information constantly, every single day. But the key isn't how much you're taking in, it's what you're doing with it. So are you just consuming, or are you actively converting that information into structure? Because the answer to that question can change absolutely everything.